Hey guys, my name is Adam. Some people call me by Instagram name Adam Photography, and today I'm going to be telling you about my experience with Thomas from Hype House. For those of you who don't know me, I am a full-time photographer here in LA. I shoot with influencers primarily, and in the past few months, I've almost solely been shooting with TikTok influencers. Being an influencer photographer is how I got involved with Thomas, Hype House, and just TikTok creators in general. So the reason I'm making this video is for two reasons. One, because I work with so many TikTok creators, most of the people that follow me are involved in this world. So I've gotten a lot of messages from people asking like, what are your thoughts on the whole Thomas and Daisy situation? And so I thought this would be a good way to kind of give my opinion on it in like a more thought out way instead of just like posting an Instagram story like, he's lying, she's lying, something like that, you know? And two, I actually had good friends of mine who sent me Daisy's video, and their first reaction was, wow, it seems like everything Thomas did to Daisy is exactly what he did to you. So I think that kind of sets the tone for what I'll be talking about. I'm going to touch on things that Daisy said in her video and kind of relate them to things that happened with me and Thomas that were almost the exact same situation. So I'm gonna start the story from the beginning, and everything that I say, I'm gonna back up with proof, whether it be messages between me and Thomas or just like videos and stuff from like when all this stuff happened, just to sort of reference it and just so you guys know that like I'm not full of shit. Before I start talking about stuff that happened at the Hype House, I think I should give you some background on how me and Thomas met. Me and Thomas met, I want to say about like a year and a half ago. I was in LA, so I'm from Chicago originally. So I was in LA just visiting, doing some shoots with different influencers. And me and Thomas connected on Instagram and we decided to shoot together. Me and Thomas's shoot went really well. I mean, I think we were shooting for about like 2 hours or so around Hollywood. Thomas was a really nice guy. Like, we hit it off. We were like kind of talking about, he did some photography and videography. After we hit it off during our shoot, even when I went back to Chicago, we stayed in touch. We would probably talk at least like once every month, once every other month, just via DM. And just like, I kind of kept in touch because he was just like a nice guy, cool guy. And for me, my plan was always to move to LA, just because in Chicago, there's only like so many influencers. I could shoot like Chance the Rapper's concert, but like besides that, there aren't really many influencers in Chicago. So I was like, Tom's a cool guy. He's already out in LA. When I do make it out there, like he'd be like a good friend to have. So fast forward to about 3.5 months ago, which was mid-December. So this is about 1 or 2 weeks before Hype House officially launched. I'd been in LA to do like a Spartan race. And while I was here, I was obviously shooting with a couple influencers as well. So I hit up Thomas and I was like, hey, what's up, man? Like, what you been up to? And he's like, oh yeah, man, I've been working on this influencer house, all this stuff. And so honestly, I didn't know much about it. Just to kind of give you some context, like I was shooting with influencers, but almost everyone Thomas was working with were like TikTok influencers. And so even as early as like December, even like 3.5 months ago, TikTok was nowhere near what it is today, so I had a TikTok account, I think I posted a couple of videos, but I definitely wasn't on TikTok. I didn't know who the big people on TikTok were. So, I didn't know that Hype House was going to be big. So I guess the point that I want to make is that I didn't hit up Thomas to try to like get over to the Hype House because honestly, I didn't even know who the people there were or who was even going to be there that night. I just thought we were cool and friends. So I was like, yo, let's do a reunion shoot, that sort of thing. And also, I've been working with this company who was looking for influencers. So I was like, yo, this could be a really good opportunity for what you're working on. Let's just try to meet up and see if we can work something out. This leads me to the first point where I feel like Daisy's experience was similar to mine. And that first part is control. When I got over to the Hype House, me and Thomas, we caught up for a little bit. And then I was like, yo, let me tell you about that company that wants to work with you and the influencers. And so that's when we went out on the balcony and we were kind of talking out there. Shout out to the homie Thomas right here. Shot with him last year. We kept in touch. Now he's moved on up to bigger things.
Trying my best.
Hey man, this dude's a fucking mogul right here. So I was telling him about this opportunity from this company. Could have made the house like a lot of money. Could have been a good opportunity for pretty much everyone in the house. And so the first thing I noticed is that like he was just kind of taking in all this information. You know, he was telling me like, yeah, man, I had like 20 calls today. Like I'm handling everything. Like everything that happens kind of goes through me. I told him it would be cool if you set up a meeting with everyone and I can present it. I could even get the co-founder to come by and explain like why it would be a lucrative opportunity. And immediately I got a little bit of pushback. It was sort of like, yeah, like, no, like, don't worry. Like, I'll present it to everyone. Like, I'll do all this. And so literally to this day, I still don't know if he even told anybody else in the house about the opportunity. And, you know, like, I'm the sort of person, I didn't want to go behind his back and reach out to other people about the opportunity and tell them about it because, like, from what he was telling me, it was, like, his house. He never mentioned any other co-founders, like, never said that, like, me and Chase put this together, me and Daisy put this together. He, to me, explained it as I've been working on this and like I did everything. It could have been an omission, you know, maybe he just like didn't mention that. All I'm saying is in my personal experience, he never mentioned any other co-founders or that he really had any help. It just seemed like he put it all together and he got everyone in the house. So to tie everything together, what Daisy said about control and him sort of not crediting other co-founders, just in my personal experience, it did seem like all information that got in or out of the house went through him. And he never personally told me that anybody else like helped him co-found it. He just told me he did it, which in his defense, you know, you don't necessarily have to go out of your way to tell someone that other people helped you put stuff together. But, you know, just in my experience, I had no idea that Daisy was a co-founder and I was like in the house with him and Daisy. So after the business meeting on the balcony of Hype House, me and Thomas went inside. And as he said in his video, he was trying to grow the Hype House. He'd invited, you know, a bunch of people over that night, either him or someone in the house. But everyone was there. I mean, so he had like Taylor and Bryce were doing kickflips in the living room. Addison was there. Nick Austin was there. I met Daisy that night.
I told him what
Oh! It did seem like he was trying to get everyone involved and try to grow the Hype House. So that is one thing, like, to his credit, like, he was early on, like, really trying to help grow the house and get, like, cool people over and just kind of raise the awareness around Hype House before they launched. So what ended up happening is I actually ended up shooting with most of the people who were there. You know, I shot with Taylor that night. I shot with Bryce. I shot with Nick. And, you know, the pictures came out really well. You know, like I kind of vibed with everyone. We actually all ended up, you know, going to a party together that night. I think it was for Sebastian's birthday. And that was really even before I knew Sebastian. Happy birthday, dear Sebastian. I'll be right here. I'm not that tall. It was just a really fun time. What ended up happening is we get back to the house after the party and everyone's just kind of vibing. You know, I was hanging out with Nick Bean. You know, that kid is hilarious. And long story short, I vibed with everyone. The pictures I took, everyone liked them. Everyone posted them. You know, a lot of people even made them their like profile pictures for a while. And so Thomas kind of came up to me and he's like, yo, like, you know, glad you're able to make it. The pics came out dope. And, you know, you're welcome anytime. This is kind of what we're doing. Definitely want you to stop by again. You're welcome anytime. And I was like, all right, man, that's awesome. I obviously didn't take that as like, oh, hey, you can be the Hype House photographer. But, you know, I did take it as like, hey, like, we're friends, you know, come over anytime to shoot or just hang out. So what ended up happening is after that night, I went back to Chicago because this was late December, so Christmas was coming up. So I went back to Chicago to spend Christmas with family, and I was officially moving into my place in LA the first week of January. So in just that week and a half that I was back in Chicago for the holidays, Thomas has set up a photo shoot with Bryant. So if you don't know who Bryant is, he's one of the biggest Instagram photographers. I think at the time he had like 4 million followers. And so he's the one who did their like first big shoot with like everyone in the group. So I hit up Thomas and was like, yo, that's awesome that you guys did a group shoot and everything. Like the pictures came out great. So I was just really supportive about like the shoot, you know, everything about the Hype House. I even put on my Instagram story, you know, I had given Thomas some shout outs just because he was about to hit like 100K. And I shouted out a bunch of people who I had made friends with that night just to kind of support what Thomas was doing and the Hype House in general, you know, not for my personal gain. It was just because someone who I considered a friend was doing something and I wanted to support them. And I was doing that kind of even before I knew the Hype House was going to be a thing, you know, like there were some TikToks that Thomas made that I really liked, and I would just DM him and be like, yo, this is dope. Like, I'm gonna share it on my Instagram story, stuff like that. So fast forward, I get back to LA first week of January, and this leads me to my second point. Thomas kind of just like started ghosting me for no reason. I was confused. I had been nothing but supportive. I had shot with everyone in the house just to be like, yo, you guys are cool. I want to support your project, so, you know, so I'm going to shoot you guys for free and just support in any way I can. I ended up finding this out later. Someone in the Hype House, who I'm not going to name, told me that the photographer Bryant, I guess, had a conversation with Thomas and was like, you know, I don't want any other photographer shooting in the house. And so, first of all, on a side note, I'm like, damn, Bryant, you already got 4 million followers, man. Like, why you gotta like cut everyone else out like that? But you know, that's a whole other story. But second of all, regardless of what like him and Bryant discussed, my point is I was cool with, you know, I get it. Like Bryant had more followers than me. And like, as a business decision, it makes sense to work with someone who has a bigger following. And so I was never mad if I wasn't going to be able to shoot with Hype House. Like the main thing is like, I consider Thomas a friend. And so I just wanted to be able to come and hang out with him as a friend, especially with me being new to LA and not really having like a friend base set up yet. I was like, Thomas is going to be one of my friends here, and that's great. That's sort of like the second point. It really kind of like sucked that someone who I thought was a friend just kind of like overnight just like ghosted me for like no real apparent reason. And also just kind of like reneged on an opportunity that he said I could have. That's kind of the second point that ties into what Daisy was saying. I guess at the end of the day, I understand people have to make hard decisions for their business. But to me, I just appreciate people who are like straightforward. You know, if Thomas had hit me up and said, hey, look, like we're working with Bryant, you know, he has a huge following. He's going to help the house grow. I don't think, you know, you can shoot with us anymore, but I still just, you know, you're still welcome to come over to the house to hang out. I would have been like, no problem, bro. Like, I totally understand. So I just, you know, I felt like really like left out and just kind of, you know, like ghosted for no reason. You know, after I'd been a really good friend to him and he had been a really good friend to me up to that point. And it just seemed like overnight, you know, I guess because our relationship wasn't beneficial for him anymore, he just kind of like threw it away. So that's kind of, you know, for my personal experience, that was sort of like felt bogus to me. And that's just me personally. So this brings me to my third and final experience with Thomas that I kind of related to based on stuff that Daisy explained. And it's the unfollowing on social media. What ended up happening is over my first like 2 weeks here in LA, I was still doing my shoots like normal with other influencers. And like I said, Thomas was just like ghosting me for no reason. I think I tried to call him like twice. He didn't pick up. I sent him like a text like once or twice, didn't respond. And so I'm like, all right, like whatever. I just said, I guess this friendship is over. Like, I don't really know what I did, but whatever. What ended up happening is he kept following me. He was still following me on social media, but what ended up happening is I really hit it off with Nick Bean that night that I was at the Hype House. And Nick was like, hey man, I'm working on this other influencer house called Sway. I'm reunited with my brother from another mother, Nick Bean. We're here at Sway, LA, and we haven't set up a photographer yet. We want to do like a big shoot to kind of introduce Sway. And so Nick had hit me up, and so I started shooting with people in Sway, people like Bryce, Josh Richards, Griffin, everyone in that house, you guys know them. And so that was awesome. It was like, I guess it felt sort of like karma in terms of I did everything right with the Hype House, and for some reason it didn't work out. Just because I was like really cool and nice to everyone that I met that night, it ended up creating another opportunity for me just because I was nice and cool that night with everyone. So I ended up starting to shoot for Sway like pretty frequently. What I noticed is as soon as I started shooting with Sway, I was putting like my photo shoots with them on my Instagram story. And I noticed that he started watching my Instagram story like a lot more frequently. And probably like a week into me shooting with Sway, he just unfollows me from everything. And I'm like, that makes no sense. I was trying to like work with you and like be friends with you, and you ignored me, so I got another opportunity. And as soon as I got that opportunity, I guess he was mad that I was like just not sitting in my LA house alone, but instead I was out trying to get other opportunities, and something was working out for me, so he just unfollowed me. So, around that time too, I think it was following over 500 people, and as soon as the Hype House blew up, he got his follower count down to like 200. Everyone, gets their follower count down, if it's like random people. But from what I know and from what other people have told me, like he unfollowed a bunch of people that he actually like knew and talked to, which like I thought was kind of bogus because, I wouldn't unfollow like people who I'm actually friends with. Like you got to realize like we were literally hanging out 2.5 weeks earlier, and he was like, yeah, man, like so glad you came. Like, no pun intended, like hyping me up, saying like, yo, the pictures are dope. Like, yeah, we're about to take over. Like this is going to be great. And then 2.5 weeks later, for no apparent reason, he just unfollows me and stops talking to me. That's pretty much it. I guess what I will end with is Thomas has like two sides, When he wants to be your friend, he is the nicest, most cordial person. And every interaction that I had when we were friends was great. Like he's a nice guy. He never said anything mean to me or did anything like that. However, the second side to him is that I definitely feel like he needs to be in control. Just from what I've seen and like how I've experienced things with him. And I also feel like as soon as your friendship or what you bring to the table isn't beneficial to him, he could definitely just throw it all away. He's definitely not the type of person that will want to work to keep a friendship or whatever relationship you have with him going. So that's kind of the one thing that kind of sucked about everything is like, for apparently no reason, just everything, like he just stopped talking to me, he unfollowed me. And so that's like another thing that I really, when Daisy was telling her story, it's one thing that really resonated with me. It seemed like overnight we went from like good friends to literally nothing. At the end of the day, I have, I'm over all of that stuff with Thomas. I've obviously like got a new opportunity since then. Before he invited me over to Hype House, I was already doing my own thing. I was already working with influencers. So it didn't really affect me too much, not being able to work with Hype House. And I mean, to this day, I've been invited to Hype House by other people in there who I'm so cool with, but I just don't go over there because I'm not comfortable going over there because of all the stuff that happened with Thomas. It's just really awkward. Like, there's been no closure. He just refuses to talk to me or speak about it. If he wants to bury everything and start over, like, I'm cool with that, because the only thing I'm upset about is the way he handled things. Honestly, I wish him the best. I didn't mention anything about Daisy because I only met her at Hype House. I'm not, I don't know too much about her. All I can say is that the experiences that Daisy described, I had almost the exact same experiences. So in conclusion, that's just my personal experience that I had with Thomas. I have nothing against Hype House or anybody else in the Hype House. I'm still friends with a lot of people in Hype House. I honestly wish everyone the best. I guess what I really want out of making this video is I really hope that everyone can kind of come together and squash the drama. Like, I'm making this video because I want Thomas to know, I guess, how his actions like come off to other people, and basically how he can like affect people with like the way he handles things. If Thomas wants to like reconnect, like, I'm totally down for that. And I really hope like me making this video could be like the spark that, not only will make me and him reconnect, but also maybe he can sort of see that some of the stuff he did, how it might have come off to Daisy, and maybe they can squash things. So that's pretty much it. If you guys watched this whole video, thanks. I know I'm not as big as other people in the Hype House, but I do have this sort of unique experience, and I thought it would be interesting for you guys to hear it. So, peace.